High School Football 2008. See the schedules, look at the rosters, and view our picks at news-starextra.com/football08.
We ended up going down there with the original 4 or 5 airboats. And then whenever we got down there, that's when we started running into problems with Task Force 1 wouldn't let us in, and wanted to know who we was affiliated with, who told us to come down there and all that. And we talked to the Coast Guard and to the different agencies and stuff, trying to get in to help. And the Coast Guard, wanted us. The Wildlife Department wanted us. And then every time they would talk to Task Force 1, they tell them, no, don't let them in. And their big answer for them every time was, we don't want volunteers to end up being rescuees too. And the biggest problem that we ran into was them not being aware of the types of airboats we had. I mean, they've seen the movie Waterboy and they think we're driving these little swamp airboats around, and we're not. These are, state of the art when it comes to airboats that we're running. And the lights that we run on them, each light makes about 100,000 looms, and it's like a work light, little 500-watt work light. It makes 10,000 looms, and so each one of our light is equal to 10 of those. We sat there that first Saturday night and just listened to the phone calls coming in that people needed to be rescued, had heart conditions, stroke victims, and stuff like that. And the curfew that the local municipal judges had set kept us from being able to go out and help those people. So that was hard to sit there, and you're sitting there in the chief's office with him, and he's getting the phone calls, and there's nothing you can do. We went out first thing the next morning and went to those places, that they had the calls, and sent medical units out with us. And as we got ready to leave, the National Guard, they showed up, and they wanted to go too, so we took them out with us and just broke it up into each little neighborhood there around LaBelle and Finette area and started searching them out. And I think we ended up picking up 17 people out of there. The flooding there, the 2-story houses, it was flooded up into the second stories and up into the roofs of almost every house. They have a regional EMS coordinator that she was up there checking on stuff, and she seen they had the airboats. And she asked if there was any way that some of them could come down and help out with the Crystal Beach area, because they needed support down there too, because they couldn't. There was about 40 miles by land is the closest they could get, and the only way you could get in was by airboat. There's no way an outboard or any of those type of boats could have made it. And so we decided the second day that we'd pretty much done all the rescue that we could do. We would go down there and assist them, and we came back up and worked the third day with LaBelle Finette, because they had another area that they were getting a lot of calls from. And we went up there and went and ran those areas out and checked them. And then once we got them all cleared, then we went back to Crystal Beach, and I spent the rest of the time with Crystal Beach. We had no news. Our news was what the reporters were telling us that we're down there. And the media is showing pictures, and it's Crystal Beach, Gilchrist, Port Bolivar, and they're saying it's Galveston. And I'm sure Galveston was hit hard too, but it's not Galveston. It's those 3 small communities that are pretty well devastated. We had they brought in search and rescue from Los Angeles and I believe San Francisco, and they airdropped them in. It's what Task Force 1 did. And they went through with their night vision goggles, and they checked for survivors on the third day there. And then they left. That was their big search, was night vision goggles looking for warm bodies. And then we didn't see them back until the 19th day, and we found 2 bodies on the 17th day, and that's what got them to come back in finally. But we had no assistance from anybody. It was the fire chief, me, and one guy and his wife from Louisiana, that he was a firefighter in Louisiana that came over and volunteered to help. So it was the 4 of us for that entire time trying to search and look, and they came in and brought in cadaver dogs teams, and they brought in Hope USA group with them, and they're what they call flankers, that they spread out and try to locate odor, and then the dogs come in and work it. And ran them out to the Goat Island, which is on the bay side of the Intercoastal Canal, and they started checking that out. Well, as they got where they was getting hits by their dogs for bodies, then Task Force 1 got wind of that, and they decided they were going to come in. And they come in with 2 dogs that were prison dogs to search for inmates that get out. And there's total, I mean, yeah, they're trained to smell human scent, but there's a big difference in what they're trained for. The cadaver dogs are trained to, for the gases that outgas out of a dead body, and those are just trained to find human scent. We ended up, we found, I believe, 4 bodies while I was there, and had 19 more cadaver dog hits where they located. It could have just been residue from a dead body. It could have been a hand, a leg, it could have been part of a body, or it could have been an entire family. The dog can only tell you there's something under that pile. They don't know. They don't know what it is. They just know there's something dead under there. So, I mean, I haven't talked to them in a week, so I don't know what they've actually started digging out of the piles, as far as body count wise. We had a fire. That was the 13th day, and that was the first day they let people back in down there. It's the 13th day, and they told them don't go into candles, use flashlights. And she went into her house, couldn't see, so she lit a candle, and she says she blew it out, which it doesn't matter. All we know is the house caught on fire, and all we had was between the 3 towns that were on the peninsula, we had a brush truck, an ambulance, and 2 fire engines. And we ran out of water in about a minute and a half.
Oh, wow.
So we ended up, they pulled one of the engines over by the canal and sucked water out of the bay, and then pumped it from that engine to the other engine, and then we ran 4 hoses off the other engine and put out the second house that caught on fire. And the first house was about $1 million house, and the second one was about $750,000 house. So it was a lot of money went up in smoke in just a matter of minutes. And then in Crystal Beach, there was a guy that had his own tiger, lion, and leopard. And I think it took 6 days for them to find them, and they were in their cage. The doors were open, but they were in their cages. And they didn't, as far as I could tell, they'd never left because there was no paw prints in the mud outside of them. But they came in and got the owner to load the lion. She loaded up on her own, and the tiger, they had to tranquilize him to get him to come out. So they tranquilized him and loaded him up. And the leopard, they found him dead. So. But you're walking around in there, and you know that there's a lion, a tiger, and a leopard that haven't eaten in days.
Right.
You're trying,
but that was intense.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So you're walking around trying to look for people, and you're also looking for them to make sure you're not dinner.
Right, yeah.
So,
oh, man.
It was interesting. Houses, you pull up to a house, and like the one house, the second story was where the water line was at, and it had a big balcony out there, and there's all the dogs are from around the area. They're all on that balcony. They went to wherever they could get on to stand, and we pull up there and pick them up and bring them back to land and drop them off. And at first they didn't want to do it, and I said, well, if we're not picking up people, we might as well pick up these dogs and cats and stuff, take them out, because they're not going to be able to get in here. The tidal pattern, it would go down about 2 feet when tide would go out, and then we'd come back up about 18 inches. So every tidal deal, they was only gaining about 6 inches of elevation. And so the first about 3 days, we took a lot of animals out too. And like I was saying in the beginning, where the Task Force 1 didn't want to let us in, this is the same type of problem we ran into when the guys went down to help at Katrina. And then, so a lot of the guys that we had rounded up, they wouldn't even come down because they didn't want to drive down there and then, drive 1,000 miles round trip and then get told,
Right.
we're not, we don't want you, and you're going to be driving home on your own dime. Which I drove down there, on my own gas, and then they gave me gas to come home on. So, and that was the only compensation I got for helping was the gas, and they put the gas in the boat and truck every day, to keep it running. So I burn about 1,000 gallons plus of gas down there.